No, I think that we have been very deft in the way that we ran the brewery last year, and it's it's showing. We're here. We're still here, and we're growing. So
People are just walked in the door now.
people
more,
just
more
walked
of them.
in the door
Right
yeah.
as we're sitting here, yeah,
never
right
gonna
for
leave.
speaking.
Literally
No.
growing. Hey everyone, welcome to A Grade, the podcast where a college professor and a middle school teacher taste, review, and grade America's best coffee roasters, craft breweries, and more. We have new episodes every Monday morning at 7 a.m. My name is Joe, and I'm joined, as always, of course, by...
Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie.
And we are very excited because I don't know if it's coming through on the microphones, but we are at übergeek Brewing in Riverhead, New York, which won our 2021 A Grady Award for Best Service at a Brewery and Best Brewery overall. And we were so excited to have the owner, head brewer with us, Rob Raffa, today. So thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you, Jackie and Joe. This is it's definitely an honor. And welcome to our brewery. We're here live.
I know, this is so exciting.
Yeah, we're all really, really excited for this special episode. And we're going to kind of just chat about the brewery process and just get right to it.
Yeah, so I had a lot of questions and I've forgotten them all already.
That's fair. So the show's over.
Yeah, so we're just going to keep drinking and
Thanks
see
for
where it
joining
goes.
us, guys.
Yeah,
See you next
thank
week.
Well, the first question that I actually thought of was kind of just a broad one because I was curious how you might respond to it, which was just why Uber Geek? Because in our experience going to all these different places, they have all sorts of names and vibes, and this obviously really stood out to us. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I get asked this question all the time, and I really wish I had a better answer. I've actually told my employees to start lying to people and just coming up with whatever they want. So I'm hoping that there are all these like fictitious stories out there about how
Add to the myth, the
Yeah.
mythos, and yes, of everything.
Exactly. But what it really comes down to is it was the name of my home brewery when I first started. And I kind of just pulled that name out of thin air because I was like, you know what? I've spent the last 8 years in collegiate education. And I'm like, okay, 8 years of geeking out. I'm like, well, that's a lot of geeking out. I'm like, all right, well, it's kind of like an Uber geeking. And I'm like, oh, Uber geek. I'm like, that kind of sounds interesting. And the more I said it, the more I was like, I don't know. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue. And then when I actually was like, all right, let me actually start a brewery. I'm like, well, there's Uber Geek. I could use that. And I just kept saying it over and over again. I'm like, and I would say it to people to kind of gauge their reaction. And then eventually it just became natural. I'm like, yep, that's what we're going to roll with. So Uber Geek it is.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it definitely stood out to us. I remember basically our process when we look for new breweries, we just kind of, unless somebody recommends one, we just go to Google and see what pops up when we search for brewery in an area. And I was like, wait, where did this come from all of a sudden? And it definitely stood out, the name. And I immediately started to try to figure out why Uber Geek, and just the pictures and some of the reviews. I said immediately to Jackie, we got to check this place out. And I'm glad we did. We weren't disappointed, certainly, right?
Yeah, and I think what we liked about Uber Geek as well was because your theme of the brewery comes through and creates this safe place for people that are into that nerdy geek stuff like us, where with the vending machines, the art on the walls, the names of the beers, it's a theme without being corny and without being Disney. It's just such a cool space to hang out in.
Sure. No, I agree with that because I never wanted this to run gimmicky. I never wanted to. So with respect to the decor, there are certain things that have been suggested or things that I've come up with. And I mull it over. I'm like, it's a little too on the nose. And I really hate that. It can get old very quickly. And it feels like some maybe like corporation came in and was like, oh, we're going to rubber stamp this place with all this, these themes. But yeah, no, you nailed it, though. It really is a safe haven for people that have geeky interests. And the amount of different conversations that I have daily with people, it's mind blowing. I can talk about fishing one day, Dungeons and Dragons the next. So you really start to learn about all these different things that people geek out about.
Right. Yeah.
So I actually had a thought a while ago about setting up some sort of bulletin board where it says like, hey, what are you geeking out about right now? And it's a way of connecting people with oh, well, I'm geeking out about carpentry. So you write like carpentry and you put your Instagram tag on there. Well, then somebody can come in and say, oh, somebody's geeking out about it, they're learning about it. Like, I know carpentry, maybe I can help that person out, and it's a way to connect people with geeky interests. Like, there's an idea. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll put it right over there.
I think it fits with everything that you're already doing here with the geek talks and the live music. It totally fits with that theme.
Yeah, I agree. And that actually makes me very curious as to, do you have one thing in particular that you would say you geek out about? Or my guess would be beer, but is there something else behind the scenes,
it's
other nerdy stuff?
Everything. I'm a big advocate of independent study. So, like when it comes to brewing, I pretty much taught myself, how to brew through books and YouTube and just seeking out advice from people. I like to code on the side. That's fun. I don't really have too much time these days, but it used to be like, I'd get out of work and then I'd go home, and that would be, code for a few hours and then go to bed. Cheese making, I was just about to start getting into that. That's I've got a couple books about that, and I'm sure I'll make a bunch of mistakes just like I did when I first started brewing. But in the end, it's gonna be so rewarding.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's very much a scientific process. But what interests me always about craft beer and a lot of craft stuff in general, I mean, we talk about this with coffee roasters, but obviously as well with craft breweries, that it really does feel, in my experience, that it's somehow this confluence of science and art, right? Like, there's the science behind the beer and beer making. We were just reading the Randy Mosher tasting beer book to get like a little bit deeper insight into the brewing process and some of the chemistry behind it. And yeah, it's very technical in many ways, but at the same time, a lot of it does come down to, well, how do you add your artistic flavor and think about how it affects and impacts people in different ways. And I think that's something that I read on the übergeek website, was something about this idea of art and science, right?
Yes. So I've thought about this for several years as well. There are different brewers that you come across. There are those that have a very scientific approach to brewing and those that take the more artistic approach. And both of them can produce fantastic beer. I definitely lean more scientific. I would actually feel like these days it's a little more artistic, and I think that it's because the science is just running in the background in my head, and now I have the freedom to kind of express myself.
Right.
But there are those that just run out expressing themselves right away, and they knock it out of the park. As long as you're doing a few technical things flawlessly, you can really just roll with it. So, yeah, kudos to those artist brewers. A lot of them just kind of just lucked out from the start. I'm just like, hey, I can make fantastic beer.
Right. Do you have any that you feel like have inspired you, or any brewers that you look up to, really look up to, or breweries that are your favorite?
So I have a lot of peers that I look up to, and it's people that I've come across throughout the years, and you learn little things through them. And it reminds me of something that I want. It's on my to-do list, actually. It's right there. There's a thing called what did you learn and from who? Or from whom? From whom?
From whom?
Writing professor?
No, it was from him. So yeah, from whom?
From whom?
From whom?
Yeah.
So what
Sure,
I
why
want to do is go on Instagram Live or whatever under this account, under the übergeek account, and physically show like, hey, I learned this from this person at this brewery, and it's made my life a lot easier. And then basically push it to them where it's like, all right, now you show who you have learned something from. And it just starts this daisy chain of just showing, that, we didn't know from day one how to do all of this. Yeah. And there's a couple brewers out there. My friend Paul over at Ghost, he taught me a really cool technique with the mash tun. And it's going to be the first thing that I show when I do this. And it's this whirlpool technique to get everything nice and squeaky clean. And I feel like I never would have come across that if I didn't see him do that.
Right.
It may sound trivial, but it saves me easily 10, 15 minutes in a very critical time in the brewing process.
Right.
Yeah.
Which must be huge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, at that moment, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm very fascinated because, like we said, we've been to so many different breweries over the past year, but you just seem to have so many ideas. Are you just constantly seeing these opportunities as areas to explore and expand? And do you ever how do you prioritize that? Do you ever feel overwhelmed with when you have a great idea? Because I know as a writer especially, I'll come up with a great idea, but then I have other ideas, and I'm trying to balance sort of my own time management of where I put my energies. Like I would imagine with everything else you're trying to do, running a business these days, that's got to be maybe somewhat frustrating, but certainly a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, that's why I write everything down. And like like I just said, I just have my to-do list that's out right next to me. Everything goes down, and I take the time and filter through it and mull it over after a few days. Like, is that a good idea? I don't know. Week later, no, it's not. Cross it off, and maybe I'll put that away. I've gone through so many different to-do lists, ones that are digital, ones that are not. This is finally the one that works for me. But yeah, you gotta at least, for me, write it down, get it out of your head, because I will forget it. I absolutely will. And I think it's what is it? In the quote of Mac Miller, I believe you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of these ideas that are popping in my head, it's like, why not just try to see if you can do it? If you can do it, great, you did it. If you don't try, you're never going to do it.
Right, and it's not going to hurt anything to give it that try.
Right.
Geeky question,
Yes.
because I love pens and paper. Do you do a digital to-do list or on paper with your hand and a pen and pencil, or a combo of both?
So it's both. So the to-do list that I have here, it's all digital, and then I make all my notes, I cross things off, and then every Monday I go through and I update the actual digital copy and reprint out a new to-do list every Monday.
Yeah.
A nice clean one, yeah.
So this is the brain on paper.
Yep.
I love that. Yeah.
It has to. It has to be, because like you were saying,
Right.
I'm doing so many things between running this business and brewing the beer and coming up with ideas for its future that it has to be structured in some sort of way. And I think if I didn't do it that way, it would just be haphazard and it would come off a little disjointed.
Yeah. You need a process that works in that sense.
And it's definitely working, because you've been open for less than a year, right? And
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
it's definitely, you've done a lot in less than a year, and you have a really good reputation in the community and in general.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been 10 months, and
can't
I'm
believe that.
floored at
Yeah.
what we've done.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's a testament to hiring fantastic staff and treating them properly, and also writing things down and just having a dream and saying, you know what, I'm just going, what's the worst that happens? And especially just asking questions about, hey, maybe I got this idea. Is this a good idea? No? Oh, okay. Can I do it? Oh, we'll find out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's interesting as well, because we were talking about that a little bit before we hit record, how we noticed at, I think, the end of last year that every place that we give high grades to, and I think the only places we ever give A grades to,
Yes.
always have A grade service experiences. And that stood out to us as a very sort of telling and revealing correlation at the very least. And it was absolutely what we noticed with übergeek, which, like we said, we gave Best Service Award and Best Craft Brewery Award, go figure. But I think, as you were saying, it's so representative of everything else that's going on within the culture of a business in general, but especially in the service industry, and especially in a place like a brewery where you get the sense and that vibe as a customer. Like, it very much trickles down, and it's not something that we always see everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's probably one of the rarest things that we've seen since we started doing the podcast, but you can definitely tell how a place is run directly based on how happy the employees are and
it's
how
telling.
they and how they interact with customers, right? Because when we do the podcast, we don't come in, nobody knows we're doing a podcast or we're doing a review, and we're trying to promote businesses. We're not trying to tear anybody down. We're really looking for the best of the best. So when we find it, we get really excited.
Yeah.
And the service is
Yeah.
a big part of that.
Yeah. No, it was great to have you here. And to be truthful, I had no, and I'm sorry, I don't want to stab at your ego. I had no idea who you were
Of
when you came
course.
in.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be that popular.
Yeah.
No.
I was just working and doing my normal day, and I'm so glad that I didn't know, so I could 100% just give you the genuine experience. Because I think that if I happen to, subconsciously, there's going to be something that's like, oh, let me zhuzh it up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, it's like at work when we get, as teachers, observed. And it's like, you do the right thing every day, but then the minute someone comes in to observe you, you're like, even extra perfect, almost to a flaw.
Right.
Almost to a flaw,
Right.
right? So
It was actually part of the debate when we were trying to decide, like, okay, what's best brewery award or best service? And my argument was the owner was behind the bar squirting mustard for the pretzels. And that just stuck with me so concretely for some reason, because it's this like effort at all levels, right? And it's this attention to detail and care at all levels. which, as we keep saying, is certainly not universal. But when you notice it, it really stands out for those reasons. So fantastic job with the mustard. I will say. I never got to thank you personally.
Yes.
Hey, it goes to the idea of I never want my employees to be in a situation where they don't have the tools that they need to execute their job properly. And in that moment, we needed mustard. Well, she's doing a great job serving the customers. I'm not going to take her away from that to do something that's trivial. I'll just do it myself.
Right. It needs getting done. So let the mustard flow.
Right.
There you go. That's a t-shirt.
Let the
That's a
mustard
t-shirt.
flow.
Yeah. Get the merch printing, right? I was curious as well. I mean, this is probably, I know, a question as well that you get all the time, but what is your favorite beer, or do you have a favorite beer style?
Oh, I do get asked this all the time, and it always throws me through a loop because and then I sit there and there's a lot of dead air and then I try to figure it out. I really enjoy Curio from Allagash.
Okay.
That's a very good beer.
Interesting.
And yeah, I don't really have a favorite style. I am trying to back away from IPAs a bit these days.
Oh, thank goodness.
I mean, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I do think that the IPA needs to not die, but be wounded.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, because it feels the market is so inundated with IPA. So to me, that's actually really refreshing to hear.
It really is inundated. I think that we have shown what IPAs can do to the fullest extent of our current practice. There might be some things that somebody's doing that is revolutionary, but I don't think that on the mass scale we're not seeing that. So let's maybe pull back a little bit. I mean, everybody loves their IPAs. I love IPAs, but let's make lagers sexy again. Let's showcase something else. And so I kind of am trying to, and if you look at our board, we have 4 lagers on and we have 4 IPAs on. I'm trying to tilt it a little bit more 50-50.
Yeah.
Some of these breweries you go to, and it's like, we have 1 lager and 15 IPAs. It's like, all right, I guess I'll have an IPA.
And I guess I'll have one drink and then go home. That's it. Yeah.
There was a brewery, I won't say which one, but we actually spoke to the owner, and I liked their beers. I really enjoyed them, but it was almost all IPAs, and they had some other ones though. So I knew that they knew what they were doing. They knew how to make different types of beer, and I kept kind of pushing him. I was like, "Oh, you ever think about a Kolsch or like a Hefeweizen or a Helles or something like that?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I love all of those, but I'm a businessman first, and it's IPAs. I'm sticking with the IPAs." And I was like, "Oh man, I know you could do those well." And he's like, "Yeah, I could, but it's the IPAs."
I get it. It draws in a lot. The IPAs draw in a lot of people, but there are these styles that you're bringing up that are equally great, and we just need to properly showcase them as a community. And I think that eventually people will come along, come over to it.
Yeah, I agree 100% too, because that's something that we've noticed in our travels as well. When you go to other parts of the country like Seattle or Portland, Oregon, or Denver, Colorado, Indianapolis, there are a lot of breweries that we went to that they have only 1 or 2 IPAs on tap.
Yes,
and
more balanced.
Yeah, they're doing all sorts of other stouts and sours.
I would love that.
Amazing.
Oh, I would love. So if you look, there's an interesting thing with the board backings. You see how they're all the same size except the IPA section. The IPA section is enormous, just for the potential of us having like 7 IPAs on.
Right.
Yes.
So it was a conscious choice when we first did it, but now you can see Crispies are really packed up there.
Yes, you might have to switch the name, the Crispies, with the IPAs.
Might have to.
And I love that. I think that would be fantastic in my
I think there's a place for it, because a lot of people, when your options for breweries are breweries that are just doing IPAs or a place that has more of a range, you're going to get people that go to the place with the range. I
think so over time, certainly, because we've noticed it in other places, and I feel as if where we are on Long Island, it just hasn't quite caught up yet, because the haze craze or hop madness is still the name of the game essentially. But I was hopeful because of our travels last summer that there is growing opportunity for that back here, because a lot of the places we went to, they did a great IPA, but their other stuff was way better, and people were getting it. So it's definitely possible, I think.
Yeah, I think this summer is the summer where things start to swing.
Interesting.
It's my opinion. A couple brewers have definitely seconded that. I'd like to say that sours are definitely becoming more popular. Real sours that are aged for several years. Granted, those are harder to have especially on draft. But I think that stouts are making a huge comeback right now.
Yep.
We're going pretty stout heavy right now with our production. We have a stout that's coming out next week, which is a collaboration that we're doing with Dubco out in Bayshore. It is a 10% stout aged on cocoa nibs with roasted pistachios.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Pistachios are our favorite.
Yes.
It's so good.
I love the oaty nutty stouts. Oh, so good.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's coming. We also have our orange Tootsie Pop stout.
We tried that last time. That was amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. So now that's going to actually get packaged up into cans. And
Great.
Yeah,
Cool.
that was the test batch, and it definitely got enough accolades. So we're like, let's
Oh
go
yeah,
with it.
that was a winner. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Interesting. And so moving forward, yeah, actually, you sort of just mentioned that how the summer you're thinking things might change along those lines. Is there any beer plans that you can share in terms of upcoming brews that you're thinking about, either in the near term or long term?
Sure, absolutely. I'll tell you. Well, let's talk about summer. For the summer, I 100% am going to make a Hefeweizen.
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we've been
Love
looking
it.
for it
Yeah.
all over Long Island.
I wanted to make it last summer. It's just with the craziness of getting this place getting
Right.
going,
Sure.
it just
Yeah,
we ran
of
out of
course.
time, and it was the end of August, and I'm like, ooh, now I finally have time to do it, and it's a little out of season, so I was like, you know what? All right, we'll save it for next year. So Hefeweizen for sure is happening. We might dip into some Gozas.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and definitely. And I learned this from Matt at Mustache Brewing, and he showcased the more salinity side of a Goza
Yeah.
and less of the lactic side. And originally, at first, I hated it. I wanted that lactic. I wanted that,
Sure,
that
yeah.
Westbrook Goza lactic forward kind of character. But the more I drank that salinity forward, I just fell in love with it. So maybe something like that would be kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, that wit beers I hear are really popular again.
Yeah, we saw those definitely in our travels.
Where did we see?
Oh,
Do you have one on mine? Out west, right?
out west
Yeah.
you would see them. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard they were getting pretty popular in Brooklyn. So
Oh, interesting.
yep.
That would make sense. Yeah.
We'll have to keep an eye out for that too.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I think you're right too. It's because so many of them that we try at different places, they're unbelievable. And I think sometimes people are just scared of things that they don't know. They kind of default to, I'll just go with the IPA because that's what they know. But then other people who are trying to get into craft beer, they try a 10, 11% double dry hop, triple IPA, and they're like, I hate beer. And our whole point as well with trying to expose more people to the brewing world and craft beer is that there's probably, if it's a good brewery, there's a beer for you that you'll like, right?
Yeah, I actually, well, first I need to ask, can we curse on this or no?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I made that mistake last episode,
Yes.
and it wasn't a mistake. It's
Go
fine.
for it.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, of
I
course.
want to make sure that
Yes.
the audience
Yeah.
is
Kids, plug your ears.
yes.
If you're listening,
Kids hearing about beer.
if you're
Plug your
listening
ears.
to our beer podcast, yeah.
So there's a beer that kicked my ass, and it made me
Nice.
hate beer, and it was in college, and now I could probably drink it with ease, but it was like drinking motor oil.
Yeah.
The Victory Storm King Imperial Stout. I had such a hard time drinking it. I remember just taking like little baby sips off it, and I physically could not swallow it.
You're like, is this why this is people like beer? People like this? Yeah.
People drink 10 bottles of this?
Yeah.
It's like, but now I'm like, oh, I know I could easily drink that. Well, maybe not. Who knows?
Right.
Somebody please bring me a Victory Storm King Imperial Stout so I could figure this out. So.
Yeah, see what it's like all this time later. Well, I've had a similar experience too since we started the podcast. A lot of times I thought I didn't like a heavy IPA. And I think it was just because it was either really overdone or not done scientifically or really well. And when I started having good IPAs, good sours, good stouts, I was like, oh, it's not that I don't like this type of beer. It was overdone or it wasn't done with enough care that I could really enjoy it.
Right. I mean, we had that experience at Hudson Valley Brewing
Yes.
in upstate New York, where I've seen Jackie straight up almost crinkle
Yes.
into a ball at tasting a sour
sour.
and saying, away, get it away, because she can't stand the flavor of it, the sourness of it. And she thought that she hated sours. But when we went to Hudson Valley, which is exclusively pretty much a sours brewing place, she was going, wow, these are A-grade beers. And that
Yeah.
I think was really revealing, right?
It was, and I felt similar when we went to Po' Boy. Their Sour Patch was
Oh, yeah,
phenomenal.
that's right.
So when it's done well, I really like it. When it's done with care and thought and a plan, right? I think it can be done really well.
Yeah. Well, if you want another A-grade experience for sours, this is the one I always suggest to people. Connecticut, there is a brewery called OEC. OEC makes phenomenal sours, and I feel like they don't get enough love.
Okay.
OEC, it's in, I think, Western Connecticut. My brother
Writing
and
it down. Yeah.
please.
Yeah,
my
that's
brother
great.
and I used to make a pilgrimage there every year, and literally, you just need to go there, and then we hit up other breweries, but our focus was that.
That's what we would call a destination brewery. You go out of your way, or destination coffee shop, where you plan your trip around that brewery or coffee shop, our destination spot. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are the ones you wanna plan for sure.
Yeah,
it sounds like it.
Every time I take pictures of the menu, to just bring home with me for inspiration, because the menu is so inspired, things that you would never think of doing. And if I had to say anybody is breaking the mold right now, it's them for sure.
Interesting.
I definitely just wrote it down, so we will be checking them out soon.
Yeah. I was curious as well in terms of different styles of beer as well. Do you feel like there's one that, I mean, you were sort of mentioning how you think the summer is going to be different. Do you think that there's, I mean, this is kind of bold to say, like, and I don't mean like it's going to take over the IPA sort of dominant field right now, but do you think there's like an up and coming, I know you mentioned stouts as an example, or is it something a little bit more like lesser well known, like a Hefeweizen style or something like that?
Honestly, it's hard to say. We a lot of brewers like to chat about, what's coming next, what's coming next.
A lot of speculation, right?
A lot of speculation. Yeah. And honestly, we never saw hard seltzers coming.
Right, exactly.
We never saw that. That
right.
came out of nowhere for us.
Yeah.
And they're a huge staple right now, where almost every brewery makes a seltzer. Honestly, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It really is. It could honestly be, I don't know, it could be lagers. You never know. It could just be lagers, and I hope it's lagers because I think that they're delicious and they don't get showcased enough. But I think crispy, clean lagers. Let's go with that.
That's one of your favorites.
That's my favorite. A nice, crisp, clean, almost bubbly, just cold lager. Any time of year, I think there's a place for it. Absolutely.
Sure. And there's a lot of skill in it because you can't really hide much in light lagers.
Right.
You can't. The defects shine. So if you can make a crisp, clean, quality lager, it's a testament to how the brewer operates.
Right.
So hopefully it's that. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put that into the universe. That's going to be the next trend. Right?
That's fine with me. I'm on board with that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask as well, in terms of thinking moving forward, this past year was your first year in 2021. We're in 2022 now. How are you feeling about 2022? If you have specific ideas or plans you want to share, like I would love to know, but just in general, like, are there any big plans on the horizon or hopes that you have for 2022?
Yes. So I'm very excited about 2022. I'd like to think that this is the year that we thought 2021 was going to be.
Oh, I think everybody's on board with that.
No, there are a ton of things that we're working on, and it's hard for me to be able to rattle all of them off, and that's why I write them all down, just to kind of keep it all there. But we just started distribution into upstate New York. We're starting distribution in the city in 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
We're having a city launch at Jacob's Pickles.
So exciting.
Cool. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. Then we're starting New Jersey distribution. What else are we doing? We're building out our arcade. We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary in April, and we just got confirmation that Maine Lobster Company is going to be here with their truck.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we had them come last year during the summer, and we were inundated with people.
Word got out.
Yeah, so we're going to have that, them here during our anniversary, so we can only imagine what it's going to be like. What else do we have going on? Let me check my list.
Check that list.
I see the list. That's an impressive list.
Yes.
I thought I had a long to-do list.
Well, a few of these are a little secret, so I'll keep those. But those
Right.
are the hits.
Those are the big ones.
Those are the hits.
There's a lot to look forward to, definitely going forward. I think this is going to be a good year for UberGeek. I really do.
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly when you said, let's make 2022 what we were hoping 2021 would be like. But you already did so much in 2021, opening up a brewery during a pandemic, which in of itself is so freaking impressive.
Thank you.
I mean, that was something that we talked about as well, that like, forget about, I mean, trying to open and run a business in the best of times is almost impossible, I feel like, just based on my experience working and friends I know who run their own businesses. But the added layer of everything that goes on and everything that happens with the pandemic, I mean, we don't have to talk too much about it, but that must have been a very influential part of the challenge of it all, right?
Sure. Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many people told me I was out of my mind.
Right, I would imagine. Yeah.
Absolutely out of my mind.
Yeah.
Because we started this business as a wholesale brewery. We had an all prop and we brew our beer and then pushed it out wholesale. And COVID started, I want to say 3 months into that business model.
Oh.
And yeah, but the wholesale market actually did very well during 2020.
Right, everybody
was just going to their local bevies, and so I saw a lot of interest in our brand, and I was like, you know what, let's look into potentially getting a more retail location. And as soon as I started talking to people about that, they're like, do you see what's going on around you? And I'm like, yeah, but I've got an idea, and I've got my to-do list, and it's on there, so I guess I got to do it.
The old to-do list, yeah.
But no, I think that we have been very deft in the way that we ran the brewery last year, and it's it's showing. We're here. We're still here, and we're growing. So
people are just walked in the door now.
People
more,
just
more
walked
of them.
in the door
Right
yeah.
as we're sitting here. Yeah,
never
right
gonna
for
leave.
speaking.
Literally
No.
growing. The bar line.
No, but I'm very happy that we started the brewery when we did, because I want to say, on some sort of psychological level, it feels good. Like, I feel like when I'm on my deathbed when I'm older, be like, oh, I'm so glad I did it. And I did it the hard way.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. And you
Yeah.
did it with people saying that you shouldn't do this, or are you serious? Is this the right time? And to kind of take that and still push through and follow through with what you believe is a good idea, this is the result of it.
And don't get me wrong, I would have loved to start this place not during a pandemic. Do not get me wrong.
Right.
But it's just this is the way the cards fell, and here we are. And I really think that this next year is going to be fantastic. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, and I think it's a proof of point, right? If you can make it work despite all of those extenuating circumstances and external factors, that's just more evidence that you're onto something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The fact that we have regulars that are like, hey, you know
Yeah.
what? I want to spend my time here. That shows that this is working. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were kind of shocked when we came here, like we said, only to realize that, this place has only been open 8-9 months or whatever, right?
Yes.
And I mean, so many places we talk about as well, when they open, they're trying to find their vibe. It feels like there's kind of an sort of tethered mood where things aren't done and you're not sure what direction maybe they're going in, and they're not even sure maybe, but we felt like so confident in this place is already awesome, and we can see things. Even the mural, I think, was still being completed, and we're like, of
since
course
we've
it
been
is.
here.
Like,
Yeah.
and who knows what they're going to do next?
We
like
got
you mentioned some of the ideas,
keg
but
tree over there. We got some really cool stuff going on. There's some games that I think are new from last time. So this is constantly evolving.
I'm particularly excited for the arcade, as you mentioned. What is this? Oh my God. Is that
We got übergeek Brewing tic-tac-toe
see,
here.
that's
And there are spaceships. There are science. What are these called? My brain is
beakers.
beakers, right? A
It's
beaker.
an Erlenmeyer flask.
See,
There's
this
a real
is
name
why
for it.
this is why you open that brewery. But this is some fun tic-tac-toe here. So there's some new stuff since we've been here last time, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's really the little touches like that that I think stand out the most to us. But I think people who come, that's why they do come back to these types of places for that reason.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to make the space interactive, where not that you need to have games around you, but I wanted to be more dynamic, where you can sit here and grade papers, and the space just kind of entertains you. It's dynamic in the sense like the TV. It is it's a progressive thing just moving on there. And with the colors, and eventually we'll have things hanging from the ceiling where you're a bit immersed in where your environment.
Yeah.
I hate when you come to a place and it's like, all right, please entertain me. Well, no, you could just sit there and just the space itself is the entertainment.
Yeah.
And it is something that we talk about a lot on the podcast, is that when you do go to a business, how would we recommend that you experience the business? Is it a place that you'd work? Is it a place that you would hang out with friends? Is it a place that you would drink by yourself? And I feel like this is one of the breweries we've been to that can kind of meet any of those expectations, because there's different settings for everything.
Yeah, which is really a really difficult balance to strike. I mean, we've been to places where it's straight up, all right, let's just go get beers and leave because of whatever's going on with the vibe. But yeah, I feel like I could come here, grade papers, I could hang out with friends. I would just get cans because the beer's great. So I think it checks all those boxes for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that before we leave today too. Get some cans. Yes.
I did want to ask, since you seem to me to be a very smart, very analytical person.
All right.
And well, I'm comparing you to me, so you have definitely an advantage. But I don't know. I don't think this episode's going to come out before the Super Bowl. But I was wondering if you have a pick for the Super Bowl now that the teams are set.
Wow.
The question from left field over there. We'll give you a second to think about it.
Well, because you're geeky about all these things, so I'm like, maybe he's got a Super Bowl pick I should know about. I don't know.
Okay, sure. I'm actually going to go with the Bengals, and reason being, I think that several years ago they had a very good O-line, and I think that they've done a lot of work to repair that. And I'm going with the Bengals.
Interesting.
Wow, I'm actually kind of shocked at that pick. They've been the underdog pretty much the whole time. So
let's go.
I heard them say that eventually, when we win the Super Bowl, they're going to stop calling us the underdogs. Call us the winners.
That's a line, right?
Yes.
And now we have the Washington Commanders.
Commanders, yeah, that just happened. Yeah.
And how did you feel for our New York people about the Bills' loss?
Well, I'm not a Bills fan.
So you were good. All right, good.
I'm actually a Bears fan.
I was gonna ask.
Okay.
Okay, Bears fan. So tough season still.
Are you
It's
from?
always a tough season.
Are you from Chicago, or you're from here, Long Island?
No, I'm here from Long Island.
Okay.
It's one of those weird situations where you see a team play enough, and you're like, you know what, I really like them. Yeah, maybe that'll be my team, and it just happened.
Oh, my brothers are both cheeseheads through and through. It's brutal. Yeah,
that's rough. I'm sorry.
I know. It's a tough existence.
And I go KC. For the beginning, though, I've been a Mahomes fan since the beginning, so.
That was a rough week last week.
That was a rough week for me last week.
There were some drinks needed. Speaking of drinks.
Yes.
All right, Bengals to win. Interesting. I still don't know who I'm picking, but I've been wrong with every single pick this postseason, so I might.
Okay, so who do you want then?
I kind of wanted the Rams to win.
Okay, so then the Bengals are going to win.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah, that's exactly. See, this is why I ask him, because he makes these connections.
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, I think. Is there anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I think that about wraps us up, unless there's any last things you'd like to share for the audience or any big takeaways.
Well, first, I want to thank you for your time. This is fantastic, and thank you for coming and meeting me here. But other than that, no, you're pleasant people. And what you're doing, I think, is fantastic. A lot of people don't have the opportunity right now to go out and see all these places, nor have they been able to in the last year. So you're basically. They can live vicariously through what you're doing, which I think is fantastic in this day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we really have, I keep saying it on the podcast, but one of the things that I didn't realize was going to be such a perk of the podcast was meeting such an incredible community in both the brewery community and the coffee roasting community. Everybody's been so accommodated, and we've been to so many great places, and hopefully 2022 more people can get out and we can give back to these small businesses and really see more thriving.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things as well, when people tell us that they listen to an episode and then they go to the place. And because that's what it's all about. If we can get any amount of people, as we said, especially given the times that we live in, especially if it's one thing if they're a craft beer fan already or a coffee roaster fan already and they go check it out. But people sometimes who are kind of just like whatever, and they hear what we have to say and they say, oh, maybe I should check that out. Maybe there is a beer for me, it turns out. Because, oh, lo and behold, it's not just over-hopped IPAs, or maybe they do like IPAs, whatever. So that's been really great, too. And if anybody listening, you want a great brewery, I would recommend übergeek 100%. Definitely check it out.
Yes, check it out. Come have a beer and enjoy.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having us. Honestly, this is awesome. This is definitely one of our staple breweries for sure.
Yes.
And I said it when we did the original episode last year. We were so excited to have a brewery like this pretty close to us, because it's one thing to find a great brewery. It's another thing to find a great brewery in your backyard. So that's been really great.
Sure. Yeah. And just wait till we put the coffee roaster in.
I'm so excited.
I'll be back every single day.
Yeah, I don't think there's any business I'm more excited for 2022, because just you going through your list of plans, I'm like, let's do it. Let's get it going. Let's get it done.
Yeah. We will definitely be back many, many times.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. Check us out on patreon.com/agrade-podcast for bonus content. There should be a link in the description. And if you look us up on instagram.com, just search A-Grade Podcast, you can find more content as well.
Yes, I will be posting lots of pictures from even our experience today on Instagram and on Patreon if you subscribe. And we have a lot of really fun stuff planned for the summer. Maybe when we get off the air, we'll even tell you our summer plans.
Oh, yeah.
That we are
Wait till you hear this
quietly hiding from the podcast. We'll announce it officially.
We're keeping the fans waiting, but we'll let you in on our
And I think by the time this
crazy
releases,
idea.
we'll probably be starting some of our Philly episodes. And if you have any recommendations for Philly, just let us know, and we would love to check them out.
Yeah. So thanks so much for joining us. Thanks, Rob, for having us. Thanks you at home for listening, and hopefully we'll see you next time, right?
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
That was great.
That's fantastic.